Hello everybody, my name is Thor Young, I'm a moderator of Bear Bull Traders, and I would like to do a recap for you on my trade today. Today I'm going to be covering a topic that comes from my Twitter. I put a post on my Twitter the other day, hey, if I could talk about anything in a webinar or otherwise, what would you guys want to hear about? And one of the questions was, what did it take for me to become consistently profitable? So you may or may not be surprised by the answer, depending on if you know me or not. But I do want to show you an exact example of this on a trade I took today on Plug. So before I get into this, if you could throw me a like, I'd appreciate it. Ring that bell, subscribe to the channel, all of those great things. Okay, now on to the trade. So the thing that I had to do to become most consistently profitable is follow rules. Now, I know that this seems generic, but believe it or not, trading is actually fairly simple in the regards of learning entries, learning triggers, learning all these things. Where trading becomes difficult is in between your ears, right? It's inside your head. It's your brain. It's your psychology. And I could never really get away from my own psychology. So what I did in order to overcome that is to use a method that I've heard by some like Dr. Kreda, things like using circuit breakers or things that really help keep me under control. Well, one of the things I did at one point in time was I decided that I was going to trade my setups and my rules no matter what. Now, the reason I made this decision was because I wanted to make sure that as I queried my data at the end of every month to see my performance, I wanted to see how well my setups were working, not how poorly was I doing, right? So if you stick with me here, so if you're trading and you follow your rules every single time exactly how you're supposed to, then win or lose is irrelevant. What you have is a beautiful, pure set of data. Right? And because you didn't get in the way of that data, because you didn't become a variable, right, in your own trading, that data turned out to be pure. And you can query that and use that and say, okay, if I do this, I do that, I do this. And it's so great to have. But the instant you start saying, okay, wait, I don't like it. Okay, wait, no. And you start cutting positions just randomly or arbitrarily for any other reason, what you start ending up with is very, very muddy data. It's data that becomes almost impossible to look through. You don't know if your setup worked or if your setup failed or if you worked or you failed. And there's this constant variable, right, that's being put into place. And that variable is you, right? So normally when you're trading, it's like you want it to be an A plus B equals C kind of scenario, right? But in this instance, you end up with an A plus C or A plus B in brackets, and then you get a U next to it, right? And then equals. And that U becomes a variable that you're dealing with all the time, right? And if you can remove yourself from that, that is where you will find consistency, because you are going to consistently be your worst adversary in trading at all times. Your own FOMO, your own greed, your own lack of ability to hold positions, cutting winners too late in bag holding, cutting winners too early and not getting profit. All of those things are the things that will keep you from being successful. So I'm going to come over to Plug here. Before I go into the trade, I just want to show you this wasn't my only trade today. I had a really nice short on Apple today that really worked out really well. I also had a really nice short on the SPY today that I ended up cutting because I didn't like the way it was buying up, but still got a nice 2R move on that one. And then I took a nice trade on MU today, which one was a break even and then one was a short that stopped. And then it basically chopped around a little bit afterwards. But Plug was my big hit of the day. Plug ended up bouncing off of S4, held the cams great today, and did a full run from S4, and with volume broke out and ran right into pre-market high. When it ran into pre-market high, it was just above R3, and it threw a ton of volume there. For me, I was specifically watching pre-market high as a level 2 short on this one. It actually coincided pretty well with some prior value areas from back in prior days, 3 and 4 days ago. So I really found this to be a very interesting place. So my where was pre-market high, and I was really looking. If I saw volume there, if I saw the level 2 looking bearish, which it actually kind of looks right now, right, how you see orders, highlighted to the downside and higher volume, I was going to short the thing. So I shorted it. Right after I shorted it, I got big volume to the downside, and then I got a low volume retracement as it started to pull back. And I mean, that's everything I want to see. And then it went and made a new 1 minute high, and just a very small amount of volume came in perspective, and I cut the position at break even. I didn't like the way it bowed up, and it really, really bothered me the way it bowed up. But then I instantly realized that this was not the play, right? My play was exactly what I had taken. I took it here. I would do it neither here or on the new 1 minute low. Either way, I'm in here long. I gave it the break of 28.80, which was pre-market high plus a couple pennies just in case. And it dropped back and it squeezed back up. And look, it came right back to pre-market high, tested a couple of different times, and then failed. So, but this is where I'm talking about that conviction that you need to have and those rules that you need to follow. What I decided to do was right after I cut this position, I instantly knew I had messed up. I instantly said, that is not in your playbook. You just broke your rules. And since the trade itself was still in a tradable range and still in a position, I instantly re-entered it. So you can see I cut the position, and then I actually got back in for a little bit worse of a price than I had before. Same stop, right? But this is why and then I started the hold. And look at the trade that this thing turned into. I got a beautiful move, got about 4R down for the partial there for half off. And then because the level 2 looked very good to the downside, and it looked like we were making a run for the next day for the opening price, I went ahead and added in because I thought we were going to drop and move even lower. But it took a little while, but we finally did much later in the day. We actually bounced the open price, came all the way back to PDC, and then we sold all the way back down. Once we hit here and bounced, I kind of figured we were done for the day. It was only 20 minutes from the close. I didn't think we were going to get that big move I was hoping for. So I cut the rest off and ended up getting myself a nice about 5.5 to 6R on this trade today. So a trade that I cut at break even due to a lack of conviction turns out to be by far my best trade profit-wise of the day. And this is what I wanted to highlight here. Make sure that if you have a strategy, if you have rules, follow them, no matter what. Even in loss, the loss and the data that you gain from that loss will be more valuable, right, than the lack of data you're going to get from seeing the trade run in your direction without being in it, right? I could take the stop out here. If it went in the other direction, I could look at this and figure out what happened. But if I had have taken this break even here and then watched it run in my direction anyway, that would have been a very upsetting trade, because that should have been a winner, and that's one that I took off at break even anyway, which would have been an ultimate loser. Better to lose the trade, again, and get that pure data than cut the trade early, right, and end up leaving yourself with a poor trade. So I hope that helps everybody. To those in Twitter who participated in my little survey, I really appreciate that help. I will be posting this video up there for you. Again, the number one thing that I did to become a consistently profitable trader was learn to follow rules. I hope that helps y'all. Have a great one. Keep it green.